Welcome back to Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. So how will the Trump tariffs on steel and aluminum hit Delaware? Well, according to our next guest, it's going to hurt, especially when it comes into the ports. Dennis Rochford is the director of the Maritime Exchange. Thanks again for being back.
Great to be back.
So talk about the effect on the tariffs.
Well, in terms of the Delaware River Regional Port Complex, import steel represents the fourth largest commodity coming up the river in terms of vessel arrivals, about 250 vessels a year and upwards of 4 or 5 million tons. So nobody's sure of what the rollback is going to be. There will be some rollback, and that will affect dock workers, that will affect the tugboat companies and pilots and people like that.
When you say affect, they're going to be layoffs?
Well, in the maritime industry, dock workers, you don't lay off dock workers. It's how many hours they get. And if you get less than 1,300 hours a year, you're not eligible for benefits, health care, pension, and the like. If you're over that, then you get the benefits. But instead of working, 2,000, 2,300 hours a year, if you're only working 2,000 hours or 1,800 hour's a year, your paycheck's smaller. That's how the dock workers are affected, as opposed to a bank consolidation or something like that, where they just, lay off people and people are out of work.
To show you what the effect could be, you were telling me a moment ago, you have a ship coming in from South Korea right now.
We hope.
You don't know if it's going to come to this port.
Right, because the deadline for the tariffs to take effect are 12:01 on March the 23rd, which is Thursday night, I guess, going into Friday. And the people, the cargo owner wants to know if that ship is going to get into port on the Delaware River before the deadline. Otherwise, they'll be diverted to Charleston or Savannah or some other port further south.
Let's go through who you're saying it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt the dock workers. It's going to hurt steel imports in Delaware and Pennsylvania, and up and down the Delaware River. It's going to hurt consumers because some of the cost, if that steel does come in, that cost is going to be passed along. What about the steel industry? It's going to help them, though, right?
It probably does help them. I mean, they'll have an infusion, if you will, of opportunities to invest, expand existing facilities. Maybe they'll build a new facility. I'm not quite sure about that. There's like 200,000 steel workers in the United States of America. So, and a lot of those plants are now down south as opposed to being in the Rust Belt. Look, and I get it. The steel plants are shut down. People have been working in steel plants for 20, 30 years are out of work. They don't really have any place else to go. They're not trained. I get it. It's a serious issue in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and other places in the country. But this is just the wrong answer. This is just the wrong answer. It's not going to really help the domestic steel industry. It's going to adversely affect, our own economy.
And it will have a positive effect, possibly, a positive effect on the steel industry. Are there other industries that it will have a negative effect on? And what would be the net gain and loss as far as jobs go?
I'll tell you who really gets whacked. It'll be the retaliatory trade actions of other countries against American exports. And the farm industry, the agriculture industry in the United States, they grow corn in 36 states out of 50 states in the United States.
Southern Delaware would be hit.
In southern Delaware. So our exports overseas could be affected because people would say, well, look, if you're doing this for national security, food in our country is a national security issue, so we're going to impose a tariff on, whatever the commodity, whatever the product might be. Automobiles. We make automobiles in the United States. We export them overseas. I mean, it'll really undermine our position in a global economy in terms of protecting the exports of the United States, which are so critical to our overall economy.
But you mentioned a moment ago, a lot of the steel has gone down south. A lot of the steel plants have gone down south. And certainly Pennsylvania has them. Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio has steel plants. They're all areas and states that voted for Donald Trump. Is there politics involved in this?
No. Do you think? Of course there is. Yeah, look, and he made the promise. I mean, he carried the Rust Belt. And the Rust Belt was impacted by steel plants and other manufacturing plants that were shutting down and their jobs were going overseas. What anybody wants to say about Donald Trump, he made a promise and he kept it. In this case, I think it's the wrong answer. But yeah, I think there's a little politics involved.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Always appreciate you coming in. Dennis Rochford, director of the Maritime Exchange. When we come back, there's going to be a new opportunity for business networking in the state of Delaware. If you're interested, we'll tell you about it coming up next on the Delaware Way.